TYT Sports, everybody. Ben Mankiewicz, Jason Rubin, Steve O, Turks and Jerks. You can check out our Turks segment posted elsewhere. But this is Jerks, everyone's favorite segment, because it's much easier in the NFL to find the GOAT than the star.
See, the GOAT means something. Greatest of all time.
That's right, greatest of all time.
I don't know what you're referring to.
But I love the Jerk segment, and there are always so many contenders every week. Jason, let's start with you.
Normally, I play by the rules for Turks and Jerks, where everyone comes in with one Turk and one Jerk, but that's not too much fun. So I have a few, because I couldn't really highlight specifically one, and there wasn't even that much that I disliked about this week in the NFL, besides one of the jerks being the NFL in London. I don't enjoy waking up at 6:30 a.m. to watch football. That is too early for any 24-year-old on a Sunday morning to be waking up. Granted, I did, because as any sports fan would have, is updates constantly coming to the phone, and when that happens at 6:30 a.m.
You know what you should get? A daughter. You'll be
I'll pass at least 10 years, and we'll talk then. But the NFL in London, Joe Philbin was fired, by the way. That happened this morning.
Nice call. You called that last week or 2 weeks ago?
I called it last week. I was angry at it. I said they should fire him immediately. But you made the good point, Ben, and I'll give you credit for that, saying that if there's a reason to fire them, not so much a reason to fire them, I should say, if you're holding him onto a coach for no apparent reason, you have to let him go.
Yeah, you shouldn't be afraid to.
Because the interim isn't always the best decision.
The worst thing, if you're positive Joe Philbin's not the guy, the worst thing you can do is not fire him and have them go 9-3 the rest of the way.
Right.
And then you're like, hey, now I got Joe Philbin again.
Right.
Right. Like if you want to fire him. But what we didn't know, what I said last week, was whether Dennis Hickey and Steve Ross, the owner, Hickey the GM, whether they were the kind. Some guys just won't fire a coach in the middle of the season. They'll just wait till the end of the year. But these guys evidently saw enough in a team that clearly 2 straight weeks quit. They were not trying. They were manhandled by Chris Ivory. They were manhandled at points by Zach Stacy. That can't happen.
In a shocking revelation, Matt Williams of the Nationals is now the interim Dolphins head coach. 2 sports lose their head coaches on this Monday. But in addition to that, the Kansas City Chiefs, the week 1, it just proves how little we know after, of course, 1 week in the NFL. The Chiefs look like a competent team. Their defense is still, like, all the players on that defense should make up a great core defense. Justin Houston, who's, I don't think, gone a game in his life without a sack. It's a little bit of an exaggeration. Dontari Poe, one of the best pass rushers and run blockers, run stoppers in the NFL. That defense giving up 36 points to, I understand, Andy Dalton, who's a competent quarterback, and A.J. Green, who's one of the most explosive receivers in the league. And, of course, another jerk, Gio Bernard, for vulturing touchdowns away like he normally does in that Bengals offense. To me, again, not so much dislike against one, but Kansas City Chiefs defense. I know you're going to mention about 4 others, but I think one of those plays into that, and one of the head coaches. So it's quick, it's short, I'm done. That's what I got.
I could have done this for Turks. I've done it before, and I'll do it again. Consistency. That the Cowboys, I use Jerry Jones as the example, deserves credit for hanging with Jason Garrett, it would appear, when it seemed like he could have made a change, because guys get better at this job. It's really hard, and Garrett has learned this job, and he now seems to me to be at least a average coach. Right? He's gotten to the point, and he might be good, and consistency matters. When you have that same program again and again and again, it can lead to your team being pretty good. And who else deserves credit for that? I hate to give him credit because he's been a despicable, underpaying, underfunding, underparticipating owner for years and years, Mike Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals. But look what happened. There were a lot of years they could have made a change and gotten rid of Marvin Lewis. And now you've been consistent, and you've allowed a quarterback and a coach to develop together, and you've allowed that. And they're now, they've drafted well. They have, Giovanni Bernard is more than a vulture.
No, I know. I'm selling him short. It's personal.
I'm not arguing
it's
with
personal.
You. No, I got it. Everybody likes Jeremy Hill, but I mean, because he's scoring on plays designed for him from the 13. Like he is they have 2 really good running backs. They have hung with, in a sense in the NFL, like what are Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu still doing on that team? Like those kind of guys move around in the NFL. They haven't. They're nice compliments to one of the 3 or 4 best receivers in the league, and A.J. Green. And Dalton has developed, and they didn't make a change, and they look like they might be a team capable of making a serious playoff run. Until they do it, and until they don't lose to the Texans in week 1 of the play, until the annual Texans-Bengals first-round playoff game doesn't happen, where somehow both teams lose. That's why my memory is. They're both eliminated. This looks like a different Bengal team, and consistency matters. The fact that they weren't, sometimes sometimes you have to abandon consistency, and you have to fire Mike Smith and hire Dan Quinn. But consistency has worked there for the Bengals, and I admire it. But we're on. But I got a different. That's
It's
a
very optimistic jerk.
I don't like praising Mike Brown. If not for Dan Snyder, Mike Brown would be traditionally one of the worst owners in the league. But the Jerks this week, again, a series of head coaches who simply do not understand what to do with the clock. Do you know how many possessions you get in an NFL game, generally? And that counts possessions where you obviously can't do anything when there's 14 seconds left in your own 9.
Each down or each actual?
Each game.
Each game, how many possessions a team gets? I'll answer.
About
I don't want
10?
12. 12, but that counts.
Garbage time.
Meaningless ones counts one where you might throw a pick on the first one. You probably have 10 or 11 possessions a game where you have a chance to do something and move the ball and try to get points. So when the other team at the end of a half is pinned deep in their own territory and they're not going to risk throwing it out of there and risk a turnover, you're duty-bound to call timeouts and get another possession. It's a free possession. Do you not want the ball at your own 47-yard line with 1:25 left in the half? Is that not interesting to you to try and get a field goal and get 3 points and add to your score, which might, win the game? But John Fox, who had this huge problem, had big fights with Peyton Manning about this in Denver, his inability to understand this. So there is, I think, 1:36 left. I might have the time slightly wrong, but I'll get it as close to right as I possibly can. At the end of the half for your Oakland Raiders, they have it at their own 20 with 1:26 to play. And then David Carr at their own 20 after a field goal from the Bears to go up 16-14. David Carr got sacked on 1st and 10, 15-yard sack. It's 2nd and 25 from his own 5 with about 1:30 to play. It was a really quick sack. They misread something. You have 3 timeouts. You have to call it. Here, they're at the 5. They're not going to get 25 yards. As you know, Steve, they're not even going to try to get 25 yards. They're not letting David Carr drop back into the end zone and throw the ball. No timeout called. Then they went out of the shotgun on 2nd 25. They gave the ball to Murray. He gained a yard. Then, with 36 seconds left, he decided to use the timeout. They ran another play. He called a second timeout at 32 seconds. They punted, a 50-yard punt, all the way back to the 36-yard line. The Bears run one play. It's a sack, and the half is over. You blew easily. You could have had 1:15 there. 1:15, and you could have survived the sack, and you could have kept going. You don't know whether that punt's going to be 50 yards. It might be a 35-yard punt. You might have the ball at the 45-yard line. You're just giving points away. Jimmy Clausen isn't the quarterback, although you could argue it's more important with Jimmy Clausen because you need him to have a short field. You have Cutler. You're moving the ball. You gave up points. No one's going to talk about it because they won the game, but they gifted points away because John Fox didn't understand when to call timeout. Peyton Manning.
He understands it. He doesn't want to do it. He's super conservative. I mean, he gets tight,
We talked about that
and
all
that's
last
the
year.
problem.
But I mean,
Yeah.
so you could still be conservative, and if the punt is great, you can still kneel. You can do it.
I hear you. I hear
I
you.
don't know, man. It seems like a lot of work for the Bears to drive 20 yards and their kicker to miss a field goal.
I mean, that's what you're asking.
But it would have made you at least happy with the clock
And
management.
I forgot, you have the best kicker in the NFL, or the third best.
Robbie Gould? Is that who it is? No.
You have an elite kicker.
He's a good kicker. He's a good kicker.
I mean, he's-
I hear you. I hear you. You're totally right. But I'm not surprised from John
I
Fox.
got it. So, but I'm going to call every week that he doesn't. 2nd and 25 on the 5.
Yeah.
They're on the 5, and it's the Raiders. Anyway, they didn't do it.
Oh,
Andy Reid at the end of the
Respect to
half.
the Raiders.
End of the half for Andy Reid. Almost the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Except in Reid's case, he had the ball, and his own incredibly inept manner of deciding how to handle that drive, which ended with a field goal. He went 8 plays, 49 yards, and 424. And at one point, everything seemed fine. With 2 minutes, they had 1st and 10 at their own 26. At the Bengal 26. But then he stops. He doesn't call the timeouts. They're looking at 2nd and 16 from their Bengal 32 after a penalty and a gain of 4 yards with 1:11 left. And then he let the clock run down to 33 seconds before calling the timeout. Like, time wasn't a factor. The factor there would have been, are we going to get down in distance to get a first down or not? As a result, they let the clock run down, and they ran out of time. It ended up being 4th down. They ended up having 4th and 1. They had no choice. They could have, if they'd managed the timeouts earlier, they might have been able to go for it. They might have been able to try to score a touchdown, but they ended up running out of time. As it was, they kicked a field goal. That's all they did all game was kick a field goal. But a complete lack of awareness on what to do with the timeouts, which again also plagued Andy Reid in Philadelphia.
That one might have been just a bad strategy. He didn't want to leave time for
I
the
got
other
it.
team.
He didn't want to leave time, but you should try. If this week proved, if you're the Chiefs or the Cardinals, and the Cardinals know it, you should try to score.
Touchdowns are better than field goals.
Touchdowns are better than field goals. You do 2 touchdowns instead of 2 field goals, it's 8 points.
Yeah.
That might make a difference in a game. So I hear you. I think that probably was his strategy, but there's a middle ground also. And you when it's 2 minutes left and you're at the 26, you shouldn't run out of time. You should definitely not run out of time. And of course, they ended up with a field goal.
Right,
but by the way, and just very quickly, after that timeout with 33 seconds left, and it was 3rd and 7, they then came out of that timeout and got a delay of game penalty to make it 3rd and 12. Another mind-numbingly dumb thing. And Jay Gruden, same thing, again, blowing an opportunity on defense at the end of the half for Washington. The Eagles kicker, Sturgis, I think it is now, ended up missing the field goal. But again, call timeouts, save a possession. 1 minute and the ball at the end of the half, conservative or not, most likely, if anyone's going to score, it's going to be you. Yes, there's some chance you might turn it over, but most likely it's going to be you. And if the result of the kickoff is that you have the ball on the 9, okay, then you take your knee and we go into halftime.
All right, before we run out of time, let's get to my jerk of the week, and it's unfortunately Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, that's a good call.
So Colin Kaepernick 2 weeks ago against Arizona went 9 for 19 for 67 yards and 4 interceptions, 2 of which were pick sixes. So then yesterday he goes 13 for 25.
And say only 2 of which were pick sixes.
So yesterday he went 13 for 25.
Oh, nice.
Much better.
Yeah, totally.
For 160 yards, more than doubled his output, and only 1 interception. But here's a problem. He only threw, I think, 4 or 5 passes beyond 5 yards. And one of them that he threw deep was picked off. He has no confidence. Yeah. And even worse, his teammates now have no confidence in him. And I don't remember anyone plummeting from such high, lofty position as he was a couple of years ago to where he is now. Now he's no better than Josh McCown, Luke McCown, or any of these people.
And Cade McCown.
Probably worse, right? And to add insult to injury, after getting sacked, Clay Matthews tells him, "You ain't Russell Wilson, bro," which is one of the funniest put-downs because Clay Matthews isn't saying you're not better than our quarterback. He's saying you're not better than this other quarterback who's not even playing today. Okay? That's unbelievable. And during the press conference afterwards, Kaepernick just kept talking about how he didn't want to just throw interceptions again. He is terrified of throwing interceptions that he can't make plays. So everything he's doing is just dinking, dunking, and just throwing the ball into the dirt.
Yeah,
and
when you say something like, when you say, I was, again, paraphrasing, but if we say I don't want to throw interceptions again, like you can't think about the interception.
No.
It's a different game. That was a terrible game. You lost. Guess what? The good news in that is you were the Niners playing in Arizona. You were going to lose even if you didn't throw 4 picks, likely. So you can chalk that one up. But you have to have confidence in your next
Kaepernick
throw.
Looks more than beaten. He looks broken. Like I don't know what the answer is, to be honest, whether he should be benched or just let him play through it somehow. But he is not a quarterback with a winning mindset. He is a quarterback who is terrified and afraid and frustrated and has no confidence.
I'm looking it up, but I'm pretty sure their backup quarterback is Blaine Gabbert.
It is Blaine Gabbert.
Oh, well, then he's got to keep playing.
Well, is Blaine Gabbert, but would Blaine Gabbert have any worse numbers than these? I'm not sure.
Blaine Gabbert is. So we did this week with Chris Liss. This will be a good question for you guys. This will wrap up this segment. At what year will it be when all of us collectively have a moment where we say to maybe a friend or a loved one, wait a minute, Blaine Gabbert and Blake Bortles were 2 different people?
Yeah.
Chris thinks it's a year from now. I said 2018, but it's coming. It's coming. No, that's not 2 different people. You're out of your mind.
I was having a conversation with way too many friends the last weekend, way too many times. Blake Bortles does not move in the pocket. He's cemented into the ground. It's impressive.
Who wins in a foot race between Blake Bortles and Vinny Testaverde now?
I take Ben Mankiewicz over the 2 of them.
I think Vinny. I think Vinny, because he's probably staying in shape. All right, that's Jerks for this week. Thanks for watching Turks and Jerks. Check out our Turks clip as well. That's also posted. Thanks for watching, everybody.